Now the Raiders 2024 season has finally come to an end, and the Raiders, of course, ain't going to the playoffs anymore. But this really disappointing season has finally come to an end. We don't have to endure any more Raider losses, even though the Raiders took a loss today against the San Diego Chargers. I said the San Diego Chargers, but who gives? The Raiders now sit 4-13 with the sixth overall pick in the NFL draft. And there are so many questions coming out of this game that, a lot of Raider fans have, and even some Raider players and coaching staff. But we lose to the Chargers 34-20 in I guess, an embarrassing game. This game was basically over after half. I mean, we had some momentum at the beginning of the game where it looked like we could have won this game, but knowing the Raiders, we couldn't even do that right. We dropped the ball against our AFC West rivals, and now we are one of the worst teams in the NFL, which we already knew for the past couple of weeks. But so many questions going into this game and coming out of this game. One big question that I know a lot of people are going to be talking about is the future of Antonio Pierce as the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. Will he stay with this team or not? That's the biggest question here. And I know that there's been a lot of news and reports going on around with Mike Vrabel possibly coming over here to the Las Vegas Raiders. I've talked about it numerous times, or I've talked about it recently before. But with New England recently firing Gerard Mayo right after their game, there's a strong possibility that Mike Vrabel might end up going to New England, leaving the Raiders in disarray. And now I feel like Antonio Pierce's future with the Raiders is kind of 50-50. I do feel like if the Raiders do see another candidate out there that might seem fit, that they might move on from Antonio Pierce, whether it's the right decision or not. Nobody really expected this team to be this bad. I didn't expect them to be this bad. I know that the over-under was 6 wins for the Raiders, and we couldn't even get 6 wins. I thought that was like an easy goal for the Raiders to hit. Like 6 wins, that's it. We could do that in our sleeves. But lo and behold, the Raiders couldn't even do that right. Now, I know another question that's been floating around is whether or not the Raiders should move forward with not only Antonio Pierce, but Aiden O'Connell possibly as the starting quarterback of our Las Vegas Raiders going into next season to be a bridge quarterback. I've talked about this before as well. And even though I do feel like Aiden O'Connell is a solid quarterback and he could be a bridge quarterback for us, we've seen a lot of ups and downs and he's been inconsistent. And in this game, Aiden O'Connell was all right. 24 of 34, 214 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception to end off the half, which really kind of killed the momentum that the Raiders had going into the half. We had the lead, and the Chargers easily came down the field, got the interception, and scored a touchdown before half, which, like I said, the Raiders didn't really recover from that after that situation. But one guy that continues to break records and itch his name one step closer to the Hall of Fame is Brock Bowers, our first round pick, having 4 receptions for 50 yards and a touchdown. And now Brock Bowers continues to break more records with 112 receptions in the season with 1,194 yards and 5 touchdowns in his rookie season. Crazy. Now, that doesn't lead up into wins, but at the end of the day, we can't discount how great Brock Bowers has been looking, even with how bad our quarterback room has been looking. Another guy that I want to highlight in this game is, of course, Jacoby Myers. He's a guy that we brought in the offseason just a couple of years ago. Didn't expect him to be the wide receiver 1, but with Devontae Adams moving on to the New York Jets, he became our wide receiver 1, and he did not disappoint. But shout out to Jacoby Myers having such a game today, 9 receptions for 123 yards and a touchdown. He finally surpasses 1,000 yards receiving in a season for the first time in his career. So shout out to Jacoby Myers, well deserved, and he's definitely going to be one of those key pieces that I hope we keep around moving forward. And if we do go out and get a quarterback to come in, we know that he's going to be that guy that could be a security blanket outside of Brock Bowers. Now getting back to the game. Of course, the Chargers just look like the better team. I mean, they're a more complete team. They're a playoff team. In reality, though, you look at the 2 wins that we had prior to this, we played 2 teams that were struggling, and the Jaguars and the Saints. So going up against the Chargers team, it just kind of put us back down to reality and showed our biggest weaknesses out there. Now, I know I said this before in this video. I didn't expect this team to look as bad as they did this season. I know a lot of things didn't really go our way, but to see how bad they looked this season, all the wrong decisions that we made leading up into this point, and just seeing, how much we had to deal with throughout the season, I really do feel like Raider fans deserve a lot more. This whole organization basically sold us and thinking that this was going to be a different type of season, but we end up being the worst Las Vegas Raiders team that we've had since we moved over here to Las Vegas. Like I said, only 4 wins on the season, 13 losses. This is the first time in quite a long time that the Raiders got swept in the AFC West. We did not beat any of our AFC West rivals. And the last time this actually happened was when Art Shell was the head coach. He got fired and we had the #1 pick, and we ended up drafting Jamarcus Russell. Now, we don't have the first overall pick in this year's draft, but the Raiders sit at #6, and I highly doubt that we're able to get those top 2 quarterbacks, whether it's Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, whoever you want to have. I don't think we're going to be able to get them unless we trade up in the draft, which I don't see no real reason to do that. I feel like the Raiders can just draft the best player available defensively or offensively, whoever that may be, just to kind of build around this team. That doesn't mean that the Raiders are outside of getting a quarterback. Now, I know there's a lot of quarterbacks out there. I've told you guys how I felt about Jalen Moreau as a quarterback, being a future quarterback for the Raiders, but there's also Jackson Dart. He's a name that's been being brought up quite a lot, especially these past couple of days, and he is a solid option for the Raiders. And there's even some thoughts of Drew Aller possibly just going back and declaring for the NFL draft. And if that's possible, then I feel like that's going to be the #1 quarterback for the Raiders. But that's all just hearsay. Now, there has been reports, according to Tom Pelissero, that, Mark Davis had a long talk with AP and basically told him saying, I just want to win. Go out there and win. He wants this team to win, and don't worry about draft position.
I know a lot of folks think it's a foregone conclusion that they're going to make a coaching change, but those folks are on the outside. And on the inside of the building, it sounds like there's a lot of optimism that Antonio Pierce will continue as the head coach of the Raiders. Owner Mark Davis charged him with winning down the stretch. Said, don't even worry about draft position, nothing like that. Just win. Just win, baby.
Whether that's true or not, I believe that, because I feel like Mark Davis as an owner just wants to win. And at the end of the day, that's our slogan, right? Just win, baby. And I know that winning doesn't really do much for us, but I guess kind of gives the team some kind of hope moving forward into the offseason. And there's definitely going to be a lot of questions that are going to need to be answered in this offseason, because I believe that this is going to be a really crucial offseason for the Raiders, going into free agency and going into the NFL draft as well. With all that said, though, one person that I know that has his job in place, that going into the offseason, that we all know is going to be here next season, is going to be Tom Telesco, because according to Diana Rossini, she reported that Tom Telesco is expected to remain the Raiders GM. Outside of him, nobody's job is safe. And if there's one person that I'm actually comfortable with going into the new season, especially going into the NFL draft, is Tom Telesco. I guess just the biggest question is whether or not AP is going to be that guy moving forward or not. But with all that being said, though, I know that the season hasn't gone the way that we all expected it to be, but that doesn't mean that the Raiders can't turn it around this offseason. There's a lot of moves to be made, and hopefully the Raiders can make those moves. I mean, we all been expecting it for the past 20 plus years, but I'm still going to hope, and I just hope that we do find a quarterback, whether it's in free agency or in the NFL draft, that could give this team, this Raider Nation, some hope going into next season. But I wanted to ask you guys, Raider Nation, with everything going on this season, how do you feel about this team moving forward? Do you guys have any kind of hope in this team? Do you feel like AP should stay with the team? Should the Raiders move on with AOC as a starter or not? Who's a quarterback that you guys want to go and address this offseason and bring them over here to the Silver and Black? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I don't want to waste any more of your guys' time. We've been saying the same thing on a week-to-week basis. I'm just glad that it's finally over, because I feel like this is where all the fun happens in the offseason. So, like I said, let me know your thoughts on everything down in the comments below. Until the next one, this is your boy, Small Raider, and your boys, yeah.